Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Reeds drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom in the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you now? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when the day is done. It's a new dawn, a new day, a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Stars when you shine, you know how I feel. Scent of the pine, you know how I feel. Freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, a new day, a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Hello again. Welcome back to the Secret Garden, the Salon de la Vie, coming to you from this hopefully fairly shady bit of the garden, because bloody hell it's hot, isn't it? I am drinking today, what I'm using as a base, one of my favourite mixes for cocktails, which is coconut milk, and a bit like me, it can go with basically any spirit, so it's a bit of a fab thing. And I know rehydrating is technically cheating, but I'm afraid it's just too warm for the likes of me, so that's what I'm on today. Put in the tipple of your choice and enjoy at home. I'm really excited to talk to you today about a woman who absolutely bought it in terms of her performance. She brings it in her activism. She was an amazing inspiration, I think, ongoingly for all of us. I'm talking, of course, and I'm drinking the health and the legacy of Nina Simone. Fantastic. So one of the things I'm interested in with her, there's a really amazing documentary which I think tells you, I mean, you've probably seen it, it's a must watch, you know, what happened to Miss Simone. And it tells you a lot about her personal problems with her relationship. It goes into a lot of detail about all the things, all the huge obstacles she overcame, and the pushback she had from both her personal relationship with the man in her life and from the industry. But I want to focus more on her work than her personal relationship, because I'm really interested in how what she personifies for me is someone who could see that culture was used to oppress, and so she sets about redefining culture on her own terms. And I think that is amazing. She actually, in fact, she said, one of the things that she said that I love best is she said, I think women play a major part in opening the doors for better understanding around the world. Which is just, I mean, Sonia says that, that's kind of my hero in a nutshell. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce you to, I'm going to let Kudzi sort of set the tone by reading you an extract from The God of Small Things. Kudzi, my wonderful special guest, as you know, in this season. And then she and I are going to have a chat about Nina. So you'll watch those two things now. See you in a minute.
Papachi's moth. When he died, Grandpa Papachi left trunks full of expensive suits and a chocolate tin full of cufflinks that his son, Chaco, distributed among the taxi drivers in Kottayam. They were separated and made into rings and pendants for unmarried daughters' dowries. When the twins asked what the cufflinks were for, to link cuffs together, their mother Amu told them. They were thrilled by this morsel of logic in what had so far seemed an illogical language. Cuff and link equals cufflink. This to them rivaled the precision and logic of mathematics. Cufflinks gave them an inordinate, if exaggerated, satisfaction and a real affection for the English language. Amu said that Papachi was an incurable British CCP, which was short for Chi Chi Poach, and in Hindi meant shit wiper. Uncle Chaco said that the correct word for people like Papachi was Anglophile. He made Rahel and Esther look up Anglophile in the Reader's Digest Great Encyclopedic Dictionary. It said, person well disposed to the English. Then Esther and Rahel had to look up disposed. It said, 1. Placed suitably in particular order. 2. Bring mind into certain state. 3. Do what one will with, get off one's hands, stow away, demolish, finish, settle, consume food, kill, sell. Chaco said that in Papachi's case it meant 2. Bring mind into certain state. Which, Chaco said, meant that Papachi's mind had been brought into a state which made him like the English. Chaco told the twins that he thought he hated to admit it. They were all Anglophiles. They were a family of Anglophiles, pointed in the wrong direction, trapped outside their own history, and unable to retrace their steps because their footprints had been swept away. He explained to them that history was like an old house at night, with all the lamps lit and ancestors whispering inside. To understand history, Chaco said, we have got to go inside and listen to what they're saying and look at the books and the pictures on the wall and smell the smells. But we can't go in, Chaco explained, because we've been locked out. And when we look in through the windows, all we see are shadows. And when we try and listen, all we hear is whispering. And we cannot understand the whispering because our minds have been invaded by a war that we have won and lost, the very worst sort of war. A war that captures dreams and redreams them, a war that has made us adore our conquerors and despise ourselves. We are prisoners of war, Chaco said. Our dreams have been doctored, we belong nowhere. We sail unanchored on troubled seas, we may never be allowed ashore. Our sorrows will never be sad enough, our joys will never be happy enough, our dreams never big enough, our lives never important enough to matter. Then, to give Esther and Rahel a sense of historical perspective, he told them about the Earth Woman. He made them imagine that the Earth, 4,600 million years old, was a 46-year-old woman. As old, say, as the teacher, who gave them Malayalam lessons. It had taken the whole of the Earth Woman's life for the Earth to become what it was, for the oceans to part, for the mountains to rise. The Earth Woman was 11 years old, Chaco said, when the first single-celled organisms appeared. The first animals, creatures like worms and jellyfish, appeared only when she was 40. She was over 45 just 8 months ago, when dinosaurs roamed the earth. The whole of human civilization as we know it, Chaco told the twins, began only 2 hours ago in the Earth Woman's life. It was an awe-inspiring and humbling thought, Chaco said. Humbling is a nice word, Rahel thought. Humbling along without a care in the world. It was a nice thought that the whole of contemporary history, the world wars, the War of Dreams, the Man on the Moon, science, literature, philosophy, the pursuit of knowledge, was no more than a blink in the woman's eye. And we, my dears, are everything we are and ever will be. Just a twinkle in her eye, Chaco said grandly, lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling. When he was in this sort of mood, Chaco used his reading aloud voice. His room had a church feeling. He didn't care whether anyone was listening to him or not, and if they were, he didn't care whether or not they had understood what he was saying. Amma called them his Oxford moods.
I suppose, yeah, it brings us to talking about Nina Simone, because of course she did throw herself completely into the civil rights movement, and does amazing things, and is very roundly punished for that by the industry. You know, they pretty much drop her career afterwards. Not that, you know, and there's an amazing piece of footage. I don't know if you've seen it, where they get her to, she's really old and she gets to play. They ask her to play. It must be at the Grammys or something like that. I can't remember which award ceremony it is, but she's playing, you know, My Baby Just Cares for Me, and in between singing it and playing it, she intersperses it with like, no, there's no one here who can really sing or write anymore. Anyway, then the dance dancer. They don't know what it's like to graphic music. And she's like, it's just the most brilliant thing, because she just doesn't. There are no fucks given anymore. She just doesn't have them to give. She's just like, whatever. But yeah, when I say Nina Simone to you, your whole face lit up. What were you thinking?
Oh man, I like, akin to emancipation. I feel like I started listening to Nina Simone when I think I was about 16, 17, and I feel like for about 2 years it was the only music I played all the time, morning and night. I just completely fell in love. I find her story really fascinating. And I know she's very well known, and when we were looking into her, I was like, oh, what's, you know, maybe something a little bit interesting that's not as well known. And maybe it is, maybe everyone else knew it. And I knew it at the back of my mind that she'd spent some time in Africa, and kind of like how James Baldwin spent time in Paris and stuff. It just sort of seemed to be the thing to do as an artist. You're not a real artist until you move abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. Our time will come. Oh, you've done it. You have moved abroad. You're all right. It's me. I've got it somewhere else. Sorry, carry on.
But no, she moved to Monrovia in Liberia pre-Civil War. Wow. And she was there, I think it was the early 70s. Yeah, I find her story really fascinating. And I know she's very well known, and when we were looking into her, I was like, oh, what's, you know, maybe something a little bit interesting that's not as well known. And maybe it is, maybe everyone else knew it. And I knew it at the back of my mind that she'd spent some time in Africa, and kind of like how James Baldwin spent time in Paris and stuff. It just sort of seemed to be the thing to do as an artist. You're not a real artist until you move abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. Our time will come. Oh, you've done it. You have moved abroad. You're all right. It's me. I've got it somewhere else. Sorry, carry on.
But no, she moved to Monrovia in Liberia pre-Civil War. Wow. And she was there, I think it was the early 70s. And apparently it's the inspiration for like her last album. And there's a particular song on it called Fodder on My Wings, which I absolutely love. But yeah, no, she spent time, and it seemed to really affect her. Even in what she saw and what she experienced. And Liberia had the first, when sort of certain slaves, I'm massively reducing the story, it's much more complicated than this, but basically certain slaves had gotten their freedom and were effectively sent back and set up state and home in Liberia, which is why the capital is Freetown. And so I don't know if there's a connection in that for Nina Simone herself, but that's in particular where she decided to go. And I think also later when we're talking about Maya Angelou, I think Maya as well spent time teaching in Africa, and I want to say Ghana off the top of my head.
She did. You're right.
Yeah, she did, right?
Yes,
yeah, but for Nina, it sort of seemed to, her time in Monrovia seemed to have a real effect. And I think she was there for about 4 years, just sort of living life, and she was there with her daughter. But that seemed to have a real effect on her before she made her last album. And even interviews of her looking back and being asked about the civil rights movement, I think some of them were taken there or post her trip, and she was still just as passionate as ever.
I think that she does that wonderful thing. Like, she really recognizes, I think, the power of narrative and the power of being othered in your own culture, or being just excluded. And that thing, again, it goes back to the idea of the danger of the single story. If everything that you see that is beauty, or everything you see that is success, everything that you see that is capable of creating the stories you want to be in is basically, you know, white privilege and white opportunity or whatever. I just think that answering that with the song Young, Gifted and Black is just brilliant. And it just it just changes. It was the first time that a song had just been like, this is by you and for you, and it's right now, and you can just have it. Take this from this huge platform I have of my enormous fame. I gift it to you. And, you know, and yeah, I find that I think that's a really powerful. It's a really powerful thing to do with that platform, and it's an interesting cautionary tale because she is punished after that. She doesn't get that platform again after she uses it in that way. But actually, right, because of her phenomenal talent and later recognition, and other women doing the same thing that Alice Walker did for so many women, like holding her up again and saying, no, you forgot that she was this. Actually, we still have those amazing songs and those amazing messages. It's pretty awesome, isn't it? She's very cool.
Yeah, I think I think Nina Simone is one of those people for me that, like, I think a lot of people are incredibly talented but have to work at their talent. So without the hard work, they're not. Whereas Nina Simone, who obviously worked really, really hard, just also seems so innately gifted. And I think there's something about that is so undeniable that makes the person powerful, even if it's, you know, looking back at their career. But I think she was one of those people that actually very much had that.
She was very. She did work hard, didn't she? I like the fact that her community support her. Like you said, they see her talent and her drive. She gets, like, quite a lot of her community pay to put her through school when she's growing up, and they pay for her to go to Juilliard and things like that. That's just all a description of her local community, because they know what she can do, and I find that really.
Yeah, it's sort of realizing that, oh no, this one is really gifted, you know, like the gift is there, she's just got to hone it. She's incredible. I love it when she sings in French as well. I love it when she sings in any language, but she's phenomenal. And actually, I really, really love her version of Strange Fruit as well.
Yes.
It's really, really haunting. Really haunting.
And I think the idea now of, I'm writing something like covering Strange Fruit or writing Mississippi Goddamn. I mean, again, it couldn't be more relevant now, could it? Those are the kind of songs that you recognise are like, well, this is really interesting, because these aren't just the shoulders of giants that we're standing on. These giants are running alongside us, still telling us the same thing. Look at how, you know, America's burning now. Like, this is exactly the same thing, in exactly the same.
No, it's something really interesting about the fact that some of these songs, written even though they were decades ago, are still completely relevant lyrically, as if they were written, you know, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you tune into interviews with Nina Simone, it's extraordinary. The things she's saying then apply so accurately now, and you're going, oh God, people have moved forward. but in a lot of ways really have not. In a lot of really important ways have not moved forward at all.
Yeah,
and there's always...
And people push back, you know, the establishment pushes back.
Yeah.
Which is another reason, I suppose, why I like to just be clear that I think there's something about the fact that she makes those huge stands which make massive gains for people, and then the industry pushes back and don't give her the same platform again for a while. And I suppose I flag that only to say that's why women don't always, that's why it's hard. There isn't just this magic answer where we all just lean in. Like if one or two women were just a bit braver, it'd all be fine. It's like, no, there's a massive industry up against you, making sure that you don't get to do it or pushing back against you when you do. So I just think it's important to, whilst again, I don't want to do that thing we were saying happens to women where we only hear their tragic story, but I also don't want to say, if we never mention they did these brave things and thank goodness because it benefited all these people, but there were these repercussions for them, then it's like we're not acknowledging there's an industry there that makes it difficult for women to stand up for themselves, or black people stand up for themselves, or whatever. We're not acknowledging there's a system in place. We're just making out like, oh, individually, if you just leaned in, you'd all be fine. You're just not bothering to end your own oppression. It's not that other people are oppressing you structurally at all.
Yeah.
So she's
true.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, it's sort of like, usually it always feels like after some form of advancement there's always a backlash, sort of like revolting against it. So if something moves forward and seems to be the norm, even if it's only for, I don't know, like a period of presidency or something like that, which in the grand scheme of history is only 4 to 8 years, for example, what comes after it is like the kind of revolt, as if those 4 to 8 years were the norm for all of time.
I can't think of a modern American example of that. Like, I just can't imagine a really stark, literally last term to this term example of what you might be talking about. It's just, I mean, I'm sure you're right, but I just can't think of it.
I'm just,
that guy, this guy.
An example either at all. Yeah, no.
It's a leap, but I'm sure it's
it's a leap. Yeah.
It's too subtle for me, Kudzi. the difference between presidents last and now is just too slim. I can't quite tell it. You know, all men in power look the same to me. I don't know. So I want to tell you just 3 more things about Nina Simone that really sum her up and symbolise why she's so important to me. At the age of 12, she refuses to play at church recital because her parents are having to sit at the back in segregation. 12. She wrote Young, Gifted and Black about her friend, a playwright and writer called Lorraine Hansberry, who died at only 34, but she was a great friend of Nina Simone's, and she was the first African-American woman to have a play on Broadway. And that's one of the examples of Nina Simone changing culture, keeping women in the room. I just think that's fantastic. And she also famously said, after she'd written Mississippi Goddamn and would perform it for people, she'd quite often start that song by saying, "The name of this tune is Mississippi Goddamn, and I mean every word of it." Now, if you do nothing else in your whole life with Nina Simone, although I'm sure you will and you must, go and listen to every word of Mississippi Goddamn, because it goes a long way, it covers a lot of ground, it pretty much encapsulates everything then and now, and it's a punch in the feels and in the brain. It's really good, and couldn't be more relevant. So that's my homework for you. But have another drink before you do, and let me move into a slightly different area of our programme tonight. I'm going to finish off with a poem and another song. And the poem is one, it's not about Nina particularly, but it's sort of about, I think it's about how we all experience pushback like Nina did when you stick your head above the parapet. And you've got to keep sticking your head over anyway, because there are other people who've got to get over that parapet as well, and we all owe it to each other. So when I'm trying to make choosing those kind of battles or having a hard time or whatever, I think about Nina Simone, I play Mississippi Goddamn, and I also tell myself this poem. This is a lovely poem called If People Disapprove of You by the wonderful Sophie Hannah, and it goes like this. If people disapprove of you, Make being disapproved of your hobby. Make being disapproved of your aim. Devise new ways of scoring points in the being disapproved of game. Let them disapprove in their dozens. Let them disapprove in their hordes. You'll find that being disapproved of builds character, brings rewards. Just like any form of striving, don't be arrogant. Don't coast on your high disapproval rating. Try to be disapproved of the most. At this point, if it's useful, draw a pie chart or a graph, show it to someone who disapproves. When they disapprove, just laugh. Count the emotions you provoke: anger, suspicion, shock. 1 point for each of these and 2 for every boat you rock. Feel yourself warming to your task. You do it bloody well. And at last you've found an area in which you can excel. Savour the thrill of risk without the fear of being caught. Whether they sulk or scream or pout, enjoy your newfound sport. Meanwhile, all those who disapprove while you're having fun won't even know your game exists. So tell yourself you've won. So, I want to say thank you again for coming to the Salon de la Vie in the Secret Garden with me. I want to ask you if you fancy a slightly different night but still in my company to come to our campfire event, which is all about the amazing work we've been doing with the Greenham women and the art around Greenham. It's going to be a lovely evening on the 19th of September. And I want to ask you if you have it in you and if you have it in your pockets to put a donation into the donation pot at the end there. The details are all on the credits, which are coming up in a moment. If you haven't got it this time, it's been lovely to spend the evening with you anyway. Don't sweat it, and it's just appreciated if you can spare it. It keeps me and the team in libations. Here's to you. Here's to Nina. Let's finish by remembering just really what a damn fine songwriter she was. To be able to create absolutely timeless pieces like this with such a light, deft touch, it's a really marvellous thing. Nina Simone, ladies and gentlemen. Good night. My baby don't care for shows. My baby don't care for clothes. Should just say, I'm going to dedicate this to my beloved, who has helped me to film these. Every single word of this absolutely applies to my relationship with him, and I'm so lucky. And I wish that had happened for Nina, who wrote this and did not have the same luck. I wish it for all of you. My baby don't care for shows. My baby don't care for clothes. My baby just cares for me. My baby don't care for cars and races. My baby don't care for, he don't care for high-tone places. Liz Taylor is not his style. And even Lana Turner's smile is something he can't see. My baby don't care who knows it. My baby just cares for me. Baby don't care for shows, and he don't even care for clothes. He cares for me. My baby don't care for cars and races. Baby don't care for, he don't care for high-tone places. Liz Taylor is not his style. And even Lana Turner's smile is something he can't see. He just don't see it. I wonder what's wrong with baby. My baby just cares for, my baby just cares for